If you want to know the difference in people's lives, it all comes down to what are the things that are musts for you versus shoulds. So let me tell you this. We said to have an extraordinary life, you got to have an extraordinary psychology, right? Extraordinary psychology means you got to live in an extraordinary state. To be in an extraordinary state, you got to condition your nervous system, your body, your physiology and focus to be at their best. Do you agree with this? Yes or no? Then to do that, though, you can do that. Why doesn't everybody? Not because you can't. We all have the ability. It's because of our standards. I remember a time early in my career, I was about 24, and I went to do a seminar in Boston. And in those days, a big seminar for me was like 125 people. It was a 3-day seminar, and we worked around the clock, and people made such extraordinary changes in their life, and at the end of it, I was feeling so fulfilled. I was thinking, my God, I'm 24, maybe 25 at the time, and I am so happy. Because I have found my mission in life. I'm doing what I love. It's making a difference in people's lives. This is extraordinary. So we finished about midnight on the Sunday night. And around midnight, you know, I'm still wound up, so I don't feel like going to bed. So I decided, okay, you know, let me take a walk here, and I decided to go through Copley Square. If you've been through Copley Square, you know it's a pretty neat place. Because in Copley Square, you can look up and you can see buildings that were here before we were known as the United States. And beside them, you see skyscrapers that are new. It's a pretty cool place. So I'm walking around midnight on Sunday night. There's nobody in Copley Square midnight on Sunday night. And I'm walking along, and I see this guy in the distance, and he's kind of stumbling back and forth between the gutter and the sidewalk. He's got a long trench coat on, his head's down like this. He's holding a brown bag, and I can start to smell him even before I get there, and I'm thinking, you know, this guy is obviously drunk. And as I started to get closer, I thought, I bet he's going to beg me for some money. And sure enough, whatever you focus on life tends to happen, doesn't it? So sure enough, he gets real close to me, and I thought all of a sudden he wasn't going to do it, and all of a sudden he popped his head up. It was really weird. He went, Mister! He had this really bizarre looking sounding voice. He went, Mister! Could you loan me a quarter? And I thought, do I want to reward this behavior? And then I thought, I don't want him to suffer. Do you have this dilemma sometimes? Like, you know, I'm not here to judge. So years ago, I finally decided I always just give. Even if the person's pulling a scam, that's for them to deal with. If I have the ability, then I give. And so I thought, well, could I teach him something? So I asked him a question back. I said, is that all you want is a quarter? He goes, yeah, just 1 quarter. 1 quarter changed my whole life. 1 quarter. I said, really? He said, yeah, 1 quarter. So I reached in my pocket, and I pulled out my money clip. And in those days, I was, you know, very young, just starting to succeed. And my original mentor was a man named Jim Rohn. I don't know, how many have heard of Jim Rohn? Anybody? Yeah, he's a great guy. And Jim told me, he said, Tony, look, you've come from a poor background. You got a poor psychology. You got to change it. He said, you don't have any money, so pretend you do. He said, start training your brain, condition it. He said, go save all your money, get $300 bills, and put them on the outside of your money clip, even though you only have $5 in between them. So every time you put it out, you'll see that, you'll feel inspired, you'll feel better. He said, and you'll feel better, you'll do better. So I was like, okay. So I did. So I pulled my money clip, and sure enough, I got $300 bills down. I made sure he saw the bills. So I'm tearing through that, right? Looking in between there, see if I can find some change. But I made sure he saw it. Sure enough, he's looking at the $100 bills, checking it out. I find the quarter, I pull it out, take the money, put it in my pocket. I notice he's watching my hand going into the pocket. I took the quarter, and I looked at him, and I said, sir, life will pay any price you ask of it. And I gave him the quarter. And then something really interesting happened. He took the quarter. He looked at the quarter. He looked at me. He looked at my pocket. He looked back at the quarter, looked at me, looked at my pocket, looked at me again, looked at the quarter, looked at my pocket, looked back at me and said, you're weird. And then he shuffled on off like this, right? And I thought to myself, wow, what's the difference between him and me? I mean, I was 24, 25 at the time, doing what I love most, have my mission in life, and he's in his early 60s, drunk on the street begging for quarters. What's the difference? And I thought, well, maybe God's blessed me because I'm such a good person. I thought, oh, and he's such a bad person. That's such bull. And I thought, wow, maybe the answer to that question is what I just told him. Life will pay whatever price you ask of it. But you know what's interesting? You got to ask intelligently. In the Bible it says, ask and you shall what? Yeah, pretty good formula. You ought to look into it. But you know what? It says, ask and you shall receive, but I'm sure it meant ask intelligently. I'm sure that's what God meant. I'm sure he didn't mean bitch and you will receive. Whine and you will receive. I don't think that was the instruction. Now, if you were going to ask intelligently, there might be 5 elements of that. Number one, you'd have to ask specifically, wouldn't you? You wouldn't ask in a general way. People do that all the time. They go, I want more money. Fine, here's $1, get out of here. Very often you're getting what you're asking for. You're just not aware of how general you're asking. Clarity is power. The more clear you are about exactly what it is you want, the more your brain knows how to get there. Your brain is a servo mechanism. It's like a bomb. Those bombs, those missiles, they have a servo mechanism. So if the target moves, it knows what the target is, it follows it. Your brain, when you condition it, knows exactly what to go for and it'll find a way to get there. Did you ever buy a certain outfit or a certain car and suddenly see that car outfit everywhere? How many of you have had that experience? Say, aye. How come that car outfit's everywhere? It always was everywhere, but now you notice it. And the reason is because there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system, the RAS. That part of your brain determines what you notice and what you don't notice. Your brain spends most of its time trying to make sure you don't notice because you'll go crazy if you notice everything. But when you decide what's most important to you, your brain goes after it. Everyone I know who's successful builds what I call an RPM plan. An RPM is built on the metaphor that the way to get from where you are to where do you want to go to the fastest is you got to build power, like in a car, RPMs. And the R stands for they know the result they're after. They know what they want precisely. If you don't know exactly what you want or you let yourself get beyond that into something general, you're not going to achieve it. Clarity is power. You got to know the specific result you're after. What do you want? If you can't answer that question right now in your personal life, in your body, in your relationships, in your finances, in your spirituality, then you're not going to be as fulfilled as you want to be. Today we're going to have you answer one of those questions at least. The second part of it, you got to know P, why you're doing it. Because you know what? You may get a big goal. Somebody says, I want to make $1 billion. I want to bring peace to the earth. Why? Because as soon as you come up with a goal, all the obstacles show up. Unless you've got enough emotional drive to break through that, you're never going to discover what it really takes. So you got to get yourself past that. And the way to get past that is have enough reasons. Reasons come first, answers come second. This man did not know what he wanted, he did not have enough reasons. To ask intelligently, you got to ask specifically. To ask intelligently, you got to know why you want it, have enough drive to make it happen, enough juice to make it happen. If you don't have enough reasons, you will not make it happen. And the M is, what is your massive action plan? What is going to get you to actually fall through? Because the first plan's not going to work and the second plan's going to work, so you better have enough plans that if the first two don't work, you still got something else. Otherwise, you're going to be having excuses why it didn't work. So asking intelligently requires that. So if we're going to be extraordinary in our results, we've got to be in an extraordinary state. We've got to know what we want and we've got to go use it. To model the actions of those who succeeded before you. It can be the best financial time, the best emotional time, the best spiritual time of your life, but you better take control of your state. And if you think you're going to do it just by today, you're wrong. You're going to need to get yourself some rituals. Right now, every one of you in this room is controlled by your rituals. I don't just mean this one. I mean every morning you get up. I know your body. I can look at your body right now and I can guess your rituals. Some of you, your rituals to work out 5 times a week, I can see it clearly. 4 to 6 times a week, it's obvious. Because you couldn't look like that if you didn't do that. Some form of workout. I don't care if it's walking, lifting, whatever. Some of you, it's obvious that lifting weights is part of it. You can see by that man's muscles. I know what his rituals are, because your life comes from your rituals. If you don't develop the ritual, you're kidding yourself. How many agree with me on this? Raise your hand, say aye. And there are rituals that put you in state, and there are rituals that take you out of state. You have rituals in your relationship, you have rituals with your body, you have rituals around your finances, and the rituals that worked in the reaping time of fall in the markets and in business and in real estate, those rituals won't work now. If you do the right thing at the wrong time, you get pain. I'll say that again. If you do the right, you go, but Tony, I'm doing the right thing, but I'm not being rewarded. If you do the right thing at the wrong time, you don't get rewarded, you get pain. So you better do the right thing at the right time, and to do that, you better know what season you're in, and to do that, you better learn how to change your state, how to take control of your own conditioning. That's what I live for. Does this make sense to you, yes or no? Come on, guys, yes or no? So now it's time to train yourself to do that. I'll show you how fast it can change. Try this just for a second. I want to show you what you can do with just focus. Try this for a moment. I'm going to give you a test. Sit up in your chair with some energy. Make sure your buddy next to you is in a strong state. If will otherwise, adjust their state. Come on, change their physiology, whatever they got to do. See if they're ticklish. That might help. Now do this. I want you to look around this room right now and find everything in this room that you can find that is brown as fast as you can. Look for brown, look for brown, look for brown, look for brown. Look around you, look for brown, look for brown, look for brown. Okay, close your eyes. I'm going to give you a test. With your eyes closed now, shout out loud everything you saw that was red. If you see a lot more brown right now than red, say yes. Open your eyes. Look for red now. I want you to really look for red. Look for red, look for red, look for red. Anything you can find that's red, look for red. All around you, look for red. Raise your hand if you found more red this time and say I. Why did you find more red this time? Because seek and you shall. That's right. Whatever you focus on, you're going to find it. In fact, let me tell you something. You'll even find it when it's not there. How many saw burgundy, called it red, just so you could have more things you counted? Raise your hand and say, I. Come on. See, whatever you're looking for, you're going to find. So if you want to change your life, my friends, you've got to change your physiology and you've got to change your focus. By the way, how fast can you change that stuff? How fast, my friends? How fast? How fast? Come on. In a heartbeat, once you rechange your conditioning. That's all you got to do. And you can do it fast. You can do it with a question or two. Try this right now. Answer this question in your mind and be honest. What in your life today, if you wanted to be, could you feel proud about right now? If you wanted to feel proud, if you didn't feel like, I shouldn't be proud, if you wanted to feel proud, what could you be proud of in your life today? Your children, your health, your body. Is there a problem you faced? Instead of running from it, you finally stepped up and handled it? What could you feel proud of in your life today? If you wanted to feel proud. How many can think of something? And when you think about this thing you're proud of, what about that makes you feel proud? What do you focus on that makes you feel proud? How do you breathe when you really start to feel proud? What's the kind of look on your face that starts to happen when you let yourself feel proud? Yeah. How's that feel? Think of another area of your life. Think of an area of your life that you're grateful for. Or if you go, I'm not grateful. If you wanted to be grateful, what's an area you could feel grateful for? What could you feel grateful for if you really wanted to feel grateful? How many can think of something you could feel grateful for? Let me see your hands. And what about that are you grateful for? What do you focus on that makes you feel grateful? How does it feel when you're really, truly feeling filled with gratitude? Here's one. If you wanted to be excited about your life right now, and you were willing to be excited, you're willing to buck everybody else's trend, what could you feel excited about in your life if you wanted to feel excited? What could you get excited about if you really focused on it and you really took it in? And you weren't in a negative place. What could you get excited about if you wanted to be excited in your life? What could you get excited about? How many of you can think of something you feel excited about right now? Raise your hand. Let me see your hand. Say I. When you're really excited about it, what about that excites you? Or when you're really excited, how do you feel? How do you speak? What's your life like? By the way, when you're excited, does it tend to touch other people? Yes or no? Absolutely. By the way, do people have a tendency, by the way, who feels different right now than just even a couple moments ago? Raise your hand and say, I. Why? Because focus is controlled by questions. If you ask a different question continuously, not once, continuously, you will get a different answer. If you ask a lousy question, you get a lousy answer and a lousy state. Somebody says, why does this always happen to me? It doesn't always happen to you, but the brain's like a computer. Ask it a question, it'll have to come up with an answer. Because you deserve it, you idiot. Someone will say, how come I can never lose weight? You can lose weight, but if you keep saying, how come I can never lose weight, the brain's got to come and answer. It goes, you're a pig. Lousy questions create what? Lousy answers. Ask a better question, get a better answer. Now here's what I want you to get. I want you to get that you can change your state. How fast, guys? How fast? How fast? And if you get the habit of doing it, you'll have a different life. I've always wanted to know the answer to a question. I've been obsessed by the question of what makes the difference in people's lives. I was not popular in school. I loved people. So I was passionate about figuring out what's the difference in people. Why is it that some people are given everything? The type, they really do have parents that love them, that are there for them. They have tremendous educational background. They have all the economic resources, and they end up spending their life going in and out of rehab. They had all the resources. And then you meet somebody who's been, abused, or no one's been there for them, or they've been physically abused or sexually abused, or the worst things you could possibly happen to a human being. And they turn out to be some of the finest human beings you'd ever meet in your life, who are out there working to help other people and make a difference. So we all want to believe that our lives have turned out because of our biography. And the reality is we can all find people with a horrible biography who have an extraordinary life, and we have people with an extraordinary biography who have a life that none of us would want to trade with. So what's the real challenge? And I believe that the challenge in relationships and in life in every area is emotional fitness. That it starts with how emotionally fit you are in a relationship. And there are patterns that make people emotionally unfit. There are patterns that make people frustrated. There are patterns that make people depressed. There are patterns that make people angry. There are patterns that make people feel sorry for themselves. And there are also patterns that make people compassionate, playful, physically passionate, emotionally strong. There are different patterns, and they stand out to you when you've been around that many people. So I've had now 50 million people get my books and tapes, but I've been with 3 million people face to face from 80 countries. And when you're around those many people, the pattern becomes clear. And I've been able to use those patterns. And that's what I want to kind of expose you to tonight. And frankly, I think these patterns are common sense. But, how many of you notice that common sense is not too common? Everybody's like, oh yeah, that's simple. But, a lot of people say, I know this stuff. Well, if you're not doing it, you don't know it. You understand it. And understanding and $3 will almost get you a cup of Starbucks these days, It's really nice to understand things, but that doesn't change anything. You got to get in your body and actually do it. But I've learned enough of these patterns that now, over the last, 20 years or so of the 30 years of my career, I'm the guy that gets the call when the fire starts. When the athlete is burning down on national television and something's got to be done right now to turn them around. And, I either get them or I don't. And for 30 years, I've gotten them. That's how I've built my reputation. And that you've got to produce results right now. And I'm able to do that because of an understanding of these need structures I'm going to talk to you about. Or I get the call when the child is going to commit suicide, or the adult. And in 30 years, knock on wood, I've never lost one suicide in 30 years. That doesn't mean I won't someday, but I never have, not one single time out of the thousands of suicide attempts. And it's again because of understanding these needs I'm going to talk to you about. I get the phone call, in the middle of the night, true story, and it's the President of the United States saying, Tony, they're going to impeach me in the morning. What should I do? And I say, could you have called me sooner? True story, So in the experience of looking to make those changes and looking at how to change, same thing in relationships, couples that are gone, the films that I wanted to make with Chloe, I said, let's not make films with couples that have troubles. Let's make couples that look like they've gone beyond the edge. By anybody's estimate, there's no way to turn it around. Because by that extreme, when someone watches the film, they look at their own life and they go, oh my God, these people can do it. And they did here, I could do it too. That's the contrast we want. But the basis of all that I do comes down to knowing that the difference in your life, your relationship, your physical life, your emotional life, any aspect of your life comes down to this sense of psychological strength or emotional fitness. And what I mean by that is this. Discipline never works long term. Never. What works is when you become addicted to something positively new. You trade one addiction for another. When you shift from having to doing something to wanting to do something. So our focus is how to make that happen. But I'd say this to you. If you want to change a relationship, the number one thing you have to do is master your own emotions. If you don't do that, forget it. There's no hope. And what's wonderful, though, is it's easy to do if you know how. But none of us have ever been taught really emotional leadership. Emotional management is the very minimum, much less how to direct and shape ourselves. I don't mean faking your emotions. I don't mean pushing them down. I don't believe in positive thinking, although you may think that from watching some of the media coverage. I am not into positive thinking. I'm not here tonight to tell you to go to your garden and say, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. I'm very clear that I believe that life is about leadership and being truthful to yourself. And so I believe, number one, that the mandate for any great relationship and the mandate for anybody to lead their own life and not be a follower is you got to see things as they are, but not worse than they are. Because that's where most people go. That's where they go on relationship. That's why they start to tear it down. That's why the relationship starts to break down, because people get scared when it isn't working out, and then they make it worse than it is so they don't have to try. Because they don't want to try again and be disappointed. They don't want to feel that sense of rejection. They don't want to feel that sense of failure. So most people make it much worse than it is. People tell me all the time, oh, I'm skeptical or I'm pessimistic. I said, no, you're gutless. It takes no guts. It takes no courage to be a pessimist, to say it's not going to work, to try to find out what's wrong. What's wrong is always available. So is what's right. So I'm not into positive thinking, but I am into intelligence. And intelligence says, see it as it is, don't make it worse than it is. I mean, people all the time say, my problem is I'm big bone. No, you're freaking fat. Tell the truth. What is this big bone story? The only way it gets better is if you can see it as it is. Don't make it worse than it is. Don't try and make it so it's impossible to change. That's not true. It's not true at all. The second mandate, I think, to changing anything in your life, to leading your life, is once you see it as it is, not worse than it is, then you got to see it better than it is. Because that's the thing that's missing for most relationships. There's no vision. I mean, without a vision, in the Bible it says, people what? Perish. And when a relationship has no vision for greater than where they are, that relationship is going downhill, if not destroyed. I believe that every relationship, every part of life, every part of a human being needs a compelling future. If the future's not more compelling than today could be tough, but if the future's compelling, we can get there. And that's what every leader does. And every one of you in this room, and I know some of you are here, I guess, from the general public as well, just for your own relationships, I really acknowledge you for. But I know that you're from the military here, I know the therapists here, people from all walks of life. You're all leaders. What's your job? To lead. Your job is to help people see it as it is, not worse than it is. What's your job? Help them create a compelling future. See it better than it is, so there's a reason to give my all again. Otherwise, there's just no juice. There's no energy. Why? They'll go through the motions, complain with each other, not really believe it's going to work, and nothing will change. And then finally, the third step that we've all got to do if we're going to change our life or anybody else's is make it the way we see it. And that's where strategy comes in. I try to take things that are complex and make them as simple as possible. I've noticed most people in the psychological world try to make it as complex as humanly possible. Because it makes us feel so sophisticated when we can talk with all these complex words and elements and so forth, and we can really, we got our degrees and we're somebody. But you know what? That doesn't help anybody. So I look for a nickel word to get to the heart of something. I've tried to take something complex and make it simple so that people really will apply it. And that's the focus here. Hey, it's Tony Robbins. Listen, I'm here today to talk to the gentlemen in the group, but in case any ladies are watching today as well, here's my question for you ladies. How many of you cannot stand a man who can't make a decision? How many of you cannot stand a man who, at one point in the relationship, he's there for you, and now he doesn't feel present at all? How many can't stand a man that can't tell you the truth? And now that I've stirred up the ladies, this is really a video for men. So gentlemen, I know you know there's been women in your life who have felt in the beginning so much passion for you. And then gradually, you guys seem to drift apart and you love each other, but there isn't that same aliveness, that same sensuality or sexuality or excitement together. And a lot of men think that's women that creates it. I would argue to you, gentlemen, that if you and I take responsibility and we dig underneath and we understand what the triggers are that make women turn off, then we can turn them back on, and not by some stupid technique, but by the thing that affects most women the deepest, and that is your presence. Most women are starving for a man who's present. What does present mean? It means a man who is right here with me 100% right now. His mind isn't doing 20 other things. And I know, gentlemen, it's hard to be present when a woman is talking to you and she's talking about so many things so quickly very often that don't relate, because a woman's brain has something called diffused awareness. It means they take in everything all at once. It isn't multitasking. It's literally transitioning, not even transitioning, experiencing multiple conversations and people at one time, whereas men tend to focus on one thing at a time. And when a woman starts doing that, most men's brains click in and they try to focus on one thing they can handle, and they're no longer present. If you're in your head and you're not connected to that woman, she doesn't feel that presence. And presence is what opens a woman. Presence is what causes a woman to open to you sensually, sexually, emotionally, her heart, her soul, the whole 9 yards. Ladies, correct me if I'm wrong. There's nothing more powerful than presence when there's real love involved. So, and often women will respond to a man who doesn't even love them, but who's present for them, where they feel like there's nothing else in the world but me right now. And gentlemen, you know how to do that when you're in the zone in sports. You are so present. When you're in the zone trying to solve a problem, you were so there. And you probably were so there when you were pursuing this woman. But if you can train yourself to bring that presence back on a regular basis, you can own your woman like she's never been owned, where she will literally melt to you. And I don't think most women who are feminine would argue with what I'm sharing with you right now. If they do, they can not only talk back to the video, they can write some comments down below wherever this thing is posted. So what makes women also feel you're not present is when they feel like you're not honest. And most men are truly honest, but they just don't want to deal with what they call the shit. That must be the technical term, right? The shit they get for telling the truth because she disagrees about it. And men get worn out by words. Men were happy to resolve it, but then finally they'll just say, yeah, okay. When you say, yeah, okay, and it's not really okay with you, you're not present. So she gets even more animated. See, most women, they don't want to please her. They would like to be pleased, but they don't want to please her. A pleaser is trying to do anything they can to make things work. They feel there's no presence in that man. He has no center. He has no strength. They may like him, but it's going to be hard for them to respect him. And if she doesn't respect him, there's not going to be a lot of passion. And if him is you, that's a real problem. You and I both know, whether you're a single man who's meeting women or whether you're in an intimate relationship. So I thought maybe what I'd show you is one example of how women perceive dishonesty, as men perceive it as just leaving things out so they don't have to deal with more challenges, and how to deal with it differently. And I can tell you that verbally, but it might be better to witness it. We were in Hawaii recently, and there was a gentleman there sharing with us that he has so much difficulty just dealing with his wife. She wants him to do things like do the dishes, and he says, I run a business, and if I don't do the dishes, she doesn't feel like I love her. And I said, well, then why wouldn't you just do it at times? He goes, I do at times, but it's like every time. And so she'll ask me, am I going to do dishes? And I say yes, and then I don't do it, and then she gets mad at me, and I said, yeah, because there isn't anything authentic. I said, why don't you play your wife right now, and let's talk about whatever she's upset about, and I'll just be me, but I'll be you. In other words, I'll be myself if I was you. And you'll just watch this little video, and it's pretty simplistic. All I basically say is, no, I'm not going to do it. And he was shocked when I demonstrated this, but I didn't do it harshly. I didn't say you should go do these dishes. I don't have the delusion that that's a woman's job. I just said I'm not going to do it. This is the higher priority, but I also don't think it should be your problem, and I'm committed to working out a solution, but I'm not going to do this. And there's some things that you probably don't want to do. I don't want you to, let's work this out. It's coming from a place of congruency. And people can feel when you say what you mean and you mean what you say versus when you're placating. So I know this is third grade at one level, like we all know this intellectually, but knowing it intellectually and doing it is the difference between having a passionate relationship and a relationship where you're constantly accommodating each other. And accommodation doesn't produce passion. It might have a relationship where there's some friendship, but again, the only difference between a friendship and an intimate relationship is intimacy. And real exciting intimacy is when people feel your presence. Feeling the dishonesty will take it away. So watch this quick little video, real simple, and see what you get out of it, gentlemen. And think about if you might use that same sense of presence that's already inside you, that you use in business or sports, with that woman, and not let the past wear it out. You might be surprised. Women very often, when they feel that strength, it excites them to see you have a standard and you're not going to be swayed. Take it out and maybe show this even to a woman in your life and see if she agrees. She might say, Tony Robbins is so full of it, that's a bunch of crap. My bet is she'll say, yeah, smack you on the shoulder. That's what I've been trying to tell you. Be present with me. And instead of saying, well, I'm sorry, I'll do better, just deliver it. Maybe this week is the time, Valentine's week, a time for you to find your own center, the way you do in business, the way you do when you have a purpose. Do that with a woman in your life, the game will change.